Hey, I'm Chris, and today we'll be adding a relay-controlled device to a Savant system, and maybe a little bit more, right after this. Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be adding a relay-controlled device to a Savant system, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's a pretty simple process. In front of me here, I have a pretty basic config, system host. I have a controller box, an SSC0012 that we'll actually be using to provide our relay for our control, and a couple of rooms of audio and video. This is just a basic Apple TV and TV setup. This is a basic Apple TV cable and AVR surround sound setup. And what we'll be doing is we will be adding a fountain to the system. The fountain is going to live in the courtyard. So this is how we're going to do it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our library and we're going to search out contact closure. Whoop, maybe not. Let's go with relay. There we go. Okay, so now here we have 4 different versions of relays that we can put in depending on the operation that we're looking to provide. We have a normally closed, which means that the device that it's connected to will operate when the contact opens. We have a normally open, which is pretty typical. When the contact closes, that will be how it operates. We also have versions for a momentary. So if you have a device that is controlled by a pulse or a release, those can be used. So what we'll do here is we will take our normally open generic active closed relay device and we're going to drag it into our config, and we are going to place it in the courtyard, and we will name it fountain. Okay, so here, pretty straightforward. This is our fountain. What we're going to do next is we are going to right click where it says contact sensor, and we're going to choose the relay port that we want to hook it up to on the SSC0012 in our config, like so. And now we have a fountain that is connected. Before anything else, we have to generate services like we do when we add any kind of equipment. So let's generate those. And now we can see that we have a fountain at the very top of our list. We'll move that down here below the other stuff just to kind of keep it separate. And we are going to click the show box so that this shows up in our user interface. Hit done. And that's pretty much it. So now you can see here we have our fountain. It's all set. And that is about it. Now when we look at our Savant app, if we scroll down to our courtyard zone and click into it, we now have a relay control for the fountain. So if we click that, that will turn it on, that will turn it off, that'll turn it on, that'll turn it off. Yay! And everything's set and ready to go. Let's do something more with it. So what we're going to do here is we are going to add a turn off timer for the fountain so that when the fountain turns on, it's going to start a timer, and then 2 hours later, we will turn the fountain off. It may not be particularly useful for a fountain, but something like a fireplace, if you're integrating that, or a gate or something along those lines, that could definitely benefit from automatically closing or turning off after a certain amount of time so your client doesn't forget about it. Just might be a good thing. So what we're going to do first is we are going to go up to Tools, and we are going to review user state variables, and we're going to create a state in here for our timer. If I could press the plus button, that would be very helpful. So we'll call this fountain turn off time. Nice and easy. Okay, so save that. And now we are going to go to our services window. And in the general programmable service requests for this room, we are going to create 2 workflows, one to set the timer and one to clear the timer. So the way we're going to do that is by adding this. We're going to call this fountain timer. clear. And fountain timer clear, fountain timer set. All right, so the first one we're going to edit is this fountain timer set workflow. So we're going to go in here, and we are going to use an action called the state setter. And in our state scope, we are going to call this what we just saved our user state variable as, which of course now I cannot remember. Fountain off time user state variable, which we just created, and we are going to make that the current time type of state value, and we're going to set this to, this value here is going to be how many seconds we want this timer to run for when we go. So what we'll do is we'll set that to 7200, which is 2 hours, I believe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here. And the next thing we do is we hit save. So that will save our workflow. And we open up our fountain timer clear workflow, and we do the same thing. And then this is going to be a string type variable, and it's just going to be blank, because when this workflow runs, it's just going to clear our timer. So now we can hit save, exit out of Automator, put these guys next to each other just to make sure that they both match. We want our state variables to match, make sure that they're both user defined. State setter, yep, good to go. And to save time, if you want to save a little bit of time and you have a lot of workflows to do, you can actually drag these between here, right? So if we take this guy and we bring it into here, it'll duplicate it with all of the information intact. So you don't really have to remember your state names, especially if you name things unnecessarily long like I did here. That will save you some time. We'll just get that back to where we need it to be for the clear. Save it, close, save it, close, good to go. Okay, now we have two workflows, one that sets a timer, one that clears a timer. And what we want to do with those is we want to make some triggers that will activate when we need them to. So in here, you're going to add a trigger for set timer, another one for clear timer, and another one for timer expire. It would help if I could spell. Okay, so with those three, we are going to navigate in our little SRS window here. It's going to pop up our secondary window, and we're going to find the component for our fountain. And what we are going to do is we're going to make this relay is closed. So this is the feedback from the relay itself. So this is going to tell Savant to trigger this action when that relay is closed. So anytime you activate the fountain by closing the relay, we are going to do something. So bring this over here. Maybe not. And made this window active first. That would be super helpful for us. So now we're going to bring this over into the if window. You'll see it'll populate the window up here as well, right? So all this is that when this relay is closed, if that condition is true, let's do something. So now we can go back here to our courtyard and our general programmable relay requests. And we are going to take the action that we just made in Automator, and we're going to bring it into my then. So when this is activated through the UI or through however else, it's going to start this timer. That's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to set that state that you just created to 7,200 seconds from now, and that is what is going to start our timer. So the next action that we want to create is the clear timer. So we go down here to clear timer and back to our component. And when the relay is opened, so in other words, when the pump turns off, so if somebody turns it off from a UI or wherever else, we want to clear that timer. We want that timer to stop running. So we bring that over here, just like we did before. If that relay is open, if that is true, great. And now we go back to our general programmable service requests and we drag in the action to clear the timer. So when that relay is open, when the fountain is turned off, the timer stops running, clears it out, makes it 0, good to go. So for our timer expire, we're going to use this user-defined turn-off time that we're setting in the previous action. So when the fountain turns on, we're setting that state variable to 7,200 seconds from now. Okay, that is setting our fountain turn-off time to 7,200 seconds. So what we are going to do is we're going to bring this in. It's going to become our if condition. Okay, and our if condition, we're going to make that equal to a special thing here, which is the current time. So we pull this in, and what this does is it's going to evaluate whether this fountain turn-off time is equal to our current time right now. So when the fountain turns on, it's going to set it to 7,200 seconds. At that moment, as we move through time, it's going to evaluate and see whether that time that we set is equal to the current time. And when it is, what we'll do is we will fire off an action via our requests to power off our fountain. That's it. So this can be used for really anything that you want a timer on. One that we see pretty often is gates and that sort of thing. So when somebody opens the gate, if we set that timer to close 15 minutes later, it just prevents anybody from, leaving the gate open and, maybe the kids escape or, hostages or whoever. But it's useful for that. It's useful for a fireplace. It's useful for a lot of clients, especially out here on the West Coast, have automated windows. So you might have a skylight that's open. So when you open that skylight, you make sure that it closes itself after 2 hours, just so that you don't leave that open and, birds fly in or whatever weird problem rich people have. So that's about it. So now on a running system, if you take a look at System Monitor, when we press this button, you'll see what these states do. So if we navigate to our room and go to our fireplace trigger and click it on, so here you can see that activating the fireplace set my fireplace turn off time variable to a time that is 2 hours from when it was set. And when we turn it off, you can see that that clears. And now in 2 hours, my secondary workflow won't run. So it won't turn the TV off, or it won't turn the fireplace off because it's already off. So that's all from the lab for now. Thanks for joining us. Hope that was helpful. We are going to be trying to add some more content as we go to our channel. So if you have any suggestions for any stuff we can do, any how-tos, any guides, anything like that, that would help you, please leave those in the comments, but not before you like and subscribe. So thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
Yeah, you see